Minister spoke at the beginning of this whole container gate or container saga. He said the containers are in the port. The conversation would have been different if the containers had left the port and they were in the custody of what? ECG. And ECG, and then the containers got lost from the yard of ECG. Not so. But in this regard, the containers are within the port of the Republic of Ghana, and it's within the control of GPHA and Ghana Customs. My candid opinion is containers cannot get missing. They can be misplaced. If they get lost at sea, you are immediately what? Informed. Since there is no record to the fact that containers got lost at sea, container, because of the international supply chain logistics, there's a platform. When you key in a container, the way bill, who was in control of the container, all of that is there. I just think, we should dial it down a notch. Let's all assist the minister. Because we all need to get to the bottom of this, to get to the bottom of where each container sits. And I think it's just a matter of all of us, including ECG, including the two state agencies who are in control of the port, have a proper sit down, go through the paperwork, run it through the system, and definitely we'll come to the right conclusions.
So are you saying the containers are there at the ports?
What I'm saying is the containers cannot get missing. At worst, they have been misplaced. Or the only other option of a container leaving the port is through an auction. So there's also a database that will show which containers have been auctioned. So the whole conversation is ECG, yeah, it's okay. Fine. In every home, there are issues. But the conversation now is this. Let's situate it. The containers were in the port. To the best of my knowledge, at the time I was leaving, it was well within, the only people that would give me that full facts was the Director for Materials and Transport. And I believe strongly at that point, his main concern was that we were not having enough cash flow to take the containers out of the port.
Okay.
2, there was an investigation under the LNR project. So those bunch of containers, which was quite a number, were also stuck at the port because Yoko was investigating.
How many?
I can't say off the top of my head, but they're quite. Now, PDS also came in. At some point, we realized that some of the containers were being auctioned. So
auctioned by whom?
By the GRA, by the Customs Division.
While you were there, they started to auction some of these containers.
Yes, it came to my notice, and I responded. I don't know, for some weird reason, some of those letters have found their way into the public domain. I wrote a few letters saying, hey, could you halt on the sale of these containers? Blah. I quite remember, I don't think I got any response on that. So that's another way that containers can leave the port.
So these containers that are now popping up, according to reports, in the custody of Chinese and Indians all over the country, could be auctioned containers.
Yes. That's why the only way to ascertain this is a proper audit and a proper investigation.
Hey, welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile we put Ghana first. My guests you have been listening to so far: Rev.Ntim Fojo, Ranking Member, Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament. He just left us because he says that after reading the messages, he felt I shouldn't have read them, and that I read them to embarrass him, so he will not stay. I hope he understands that this is what we do, it's just the template. Nobody's doing anything to embarrass him. That's how it is. And we want oppositions to hold the fire to the feet of the government. They shouldn't, back in like that. Professor Kwesi is security consultant. Sami Jemfi is acting managing director, Precious Minerals Marketing Company Limited. Kofi Bento is senior vice president, Imani Africa. Now we're going to try to see if we can find these containers. You know how a container looks like, how huge it looks like, and they've gone missing. How did that happen? How is that even possible? Dr. Steve Manteyao chairman of the Ghana Extractive Transparency Initiative, will join us for the last segment. Victoria Bright, you know her popularly as Vicky Bright. She's a lawyer and entrepreneur. She joins us in this segment. This show is brought to you by the kindest sponsorship of Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneur leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 plus years. My Way Insurance. Simply dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. DBS Industries, roofing, Papa Fie. Flamingo Paint, simply superior. Syntex Tank, it's strong and it's tough. Activa International Insurance, our clients are passion. So on this one, because of the development and the time that has run out, we will hope that, gentlemen, you can be as brief as possible on this one. So as many as 1,328 containers have not been accounted for. They were meant for the ECG, and a lot of money has been spent on them. So they've been trying to find them. They have actually incurred demurrage at their ports over a period in the sum of 909 million Ghana cedis. That's what has been happening. So a committee was set up to look into the circumstance, and it brought out a preliminary report, and the NIB has also been brought into the picture to try and see if we can find these containers. First, Kofi Bento, at Imani, you have been working the figures, and you're looking at these things. What do you say?
One, there's a concept in policy analysis called the anarchic state. You can Google it. The anarchic state is a state where things should work, but they don't work. We have an anarchic state. Unfortunately, a stage beyond an anarchic state is war. So we should be careful. The containers are not missing. The containers have documents covering them. There are paid officials who were superintending their movement. They know where those containers are, and they must be made to answer questions. In the law of evidence, when you are the person with information and you are asked the information and you don't supply the information, everything adverse will be attributed to you. In other words, when the containers landed, there were papers covering them. There was an officer in charge. When they were put in a certain place, papers covering them. Try to take even a box of things out of the pot, and you understand what I'm saying. The different hoops you have to go through. So what I'm saying is this. Somebody has information about where the containers are, and that person is in a pot. That person should be made to answer whether he's in office or out of office. If we are not an anarchic state, a proper investigation will determine where these things are.
In fact,
we will find them and prosecute people.
You have followed the group with the cameras.
Yes.
To the Pram Pram and elsewhere. Yes. Where they have seen some of the containers and the wires in there.
Yes.
And you see that they use car rims.
Rims to cover them, yeah.
To cover them up. Yeah. It's the material that we
I didn't want to digress, but that's what I'm saying. Even where they steal and they try to hide, you can track it. Look, in this country, police were able to find a dead body under concrete. The containers are not missing. In a functioning state, we will find them, and the people who are involved will either answer questions or go to jail.
Police also arrested a truck that was going to A+'s constituency. Yeah. And the allegation is that it appears that during the transition, that is when some of these things happen, you know, the grabbing that was going on, alleged. Yeah. This was part of it. The police arrested that vehicle as well, and they saw some of those wires. The ECG is the only one that procures them for the country.
Anarchic state. That truck came through a port, came through police barriers, came through all kinds of state systems that must work. So again, if we are not a system whose officers can choose what to do and what not to do, like you said, they could trace it. Look, and the minister may not be, Minister Jinapor may not be a security person or whatever it is. With just a little effort, you can find all the places they have been hidden. So look, Samson, my point is those containers are not missing. They were in somebody's custody at a particular point. And then after that point, we couldn't find them anymore. That last point, whoever is in charge there should be made to answer these questions. We can't afford to continue this anarchic arrangement.
So, Samija, as we are told, the ECG between 2022 and 2024, its planned procurement was for 4.1 billion, but it ended up procuring 16.9 billion. And here we find where some of it is going.
I'm very happy with this question because, you see, that is the root cause of what we are discussing for me. That is the root cause, and that is where we must begin the discussion from. How did we get here in the first place? You see something? This case is a very sad matter, and I agree with Kofi on this matter, that, and I even say that this is a clear case of criminal negligence by enemies of the state in the previous management at ECG.
Are you not speaking too early?
No, because we are, as we speak, the facts are very clear. And the facts show that ECG did not have any need for these cables that they kept importing into the country. Every organization, not to talk of a company limited by shares, has a procurement plan for every year and a budget. And in that procurement plan and the budget, the company provides for all the items, the materials, the resources it will need in that fiscal year. Yes, there can be situations where the company exceeds that, you see, but you cannot have a situation where consistently over the years, one organization always exceeds its value procurement plan by 200%, 300%, 400%. In the year 2023, for example,
by nearly 13 billion.
13 billion. Simply doesn't make sense. So clearly somebody stood to benefit from the mere award of these procurement contracts, even though he knew that ECG had no need for that. Again, Samson, we know as a matter of fact, and ECG itself has conceded, that none of these contracts were awarded in accordance with the public procurement law. The ECG claims that it is a limited liability company, and therefore its IGF is exempt from the scope of the public procurement law, which is clearly not the case. Section 14(1)(d) of the public procurement law says that the law governs procurement with IGF or public institutions as well. They are making reference to a certain legal opinion authored by the former Attorney General, which legal opinion was not addressed to them, but the Ministry of Finance, and which legal opinion has not been upheld by the PPA. Forgetting that the Attorney General himself is a member of the governing board of the PPA. If you want an exemption to use established commercial practices for your procurement as a company, the law says apply to the PPA and let the PPA give you expressly that exemption. They didn't have that, yet they kept on awarding contracts in breach of law. Need we remind them that there are people languishing in jail today in the NCA matter for breach of the same public procurement law, and that an EC chairperson lost her job allegedly for breaching the public procurement law. If you read the public procurement law, what they have done is totally criminal. And I am hoping that if for nothing at all, that will be pursued by the state. Aside that, you look at the sheer wickedness, okay? You import things that ECG doesn't need. The things arrive at the airport. You have a shipping unit at ECG that is supposed to clear these things. And then you always give excuses that you don't have money to clear them. You don't have money to clear the containers, yet you keep importing more containers. I mean, if you read the report of the committee set up to investigate this matter, ECG has spent in excess of 909 million cedis on just demurrage. 900 and almost 1 billion new Ghana cedis.
And when we say demurrage,
Not just
we
demurrage.
mean penalties.
Penalties.
You are keeping your
for
things at the
delaying,
port,
clearing
and you are not removing them at the
containers.
port. It incurs demurrage.
Taxpayers' money. I mean, these are public funds. Today, that ECG is owing about 68 billion cedis. Who is being called upon to pay? The people of Ghana. So why will you do this to your country? And you see, the saddest part is not even this part, Samson. When they allow the containers to pile up and accumulate huge demurrage on grounds that they don't have money, then they go surreptitiously to award contracts to clearing agents, some of whom don't even have custom clearance. They award contracts to clearing agents. Then the clearing agents are pre-financed by the ECG, the same ECG which said they didn't have money to clear the goods. In the case of Mint Logistics, they pre-financed them by 30 million cedis, gave another company 127 million cedis contract to clear the goods. Just say, no, we will give a contract to someone else to do it, pay huge monies to that company in breach of law. You see, these things have gone on for a long time. And today we are being told that 1,346 containers, equivalent to $489 million, cannot be accounted for. I mean, this is mind-boggling. This is completely unacceptable.
Okay.
And I am happy that the Minister for Energy, and let me commend him for how transparent he has been on this matter and his determination to get to the bottom of this matter. I'm happy that he has written, beyond the investigations conducted by the committee he constituted, is written to the NIB to take this matter up and investigate it. We don't want any excuses. The NIB must give us timelines. This cannot be treated as business as usual. We want to know where the containers which cannot be accounted for are, who was responsible for saying those in breach of public procurement law in the award of all these contracts and all that. Let's get to the bottom of this matter and let the laws of this country work.
Thank you very much. And the minister wrote a letter dated the 2nd of April 2025, and it says, request for investigation into the Electricity Company of Ghana's ECG missing containers. I refer to the attached report of the technical committee constituted by the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition to conduct investigations into the status of the estimated 2,500 containers of ECG at the Tema port. The finalization of the investigation of the committee revealed that 1,357 of these containers could not be accounted for, thus allegedly missing. In view of the foregoing, the ministry kindly requests your outfit to commence investigation into the missing containers and furnish the ministry with the findings of your investigation. John Abdullahi Jinapo, Minister. Now, Afenyo-Markin, the matter came up in Parliament. And you know, Afenyo-Markin recently was the board chair of ECG sometime in 2024. Earlier, it was Kelly Gajepo between 2017 and 2024, and then Herbert Krapper also took over, and then Afenyo-Markin did a brief period there. Here, Afenyo-Markin, what he has to say about what goes on.
How come containers at the ports?
There are suspicions now.
Containers that have arrived. The bureaucracy at our ports. They say the containers are missing. Mr. Speaker, it is true that when these containers come, there is some connivance with some customs officials, and they sell these containers, these cables that ECG needs after the supplier has been paid. They sell the container, and then people resell back to ECG. Are we pretending we don't know? Instead of us to pay attention and kill the rots, then we come here, then MPP, NDC. So now they say, oh, maybe it's happening under MPP, it's happening under NDC. No. An honorable minister, I know what you can do. If we can give you support to do it, you must adopt a posture, a non-partisan posture, and tackle the rots. But if we all want to approach it, MPP, NDC, Mr. Speaker, it will remain. NDC will spend 4 years, 16 years, 20 years. the same thing will be there. They will come into opposition, and the same thing would arise again. Then the perpetrators will be there in the system. Mr. Speaker, today, Ghanaian businesses cannot sleep because there's a new government, whereas foreign businesses are surviving because their ambassadors will be protecting their businesses.
Right. So, Prophet Ntim, briefly, what can you say about this? And the ECG we are talking about today, this is how its liabilities look like. Some of you mentioned a while ago that it owes, the ECG owes about 68 billion, and it owes 1.73 billion US dollars to the IPPs. The 68 billion is in cedis.
Samson, thank you very much. And I think the process has started, but it is not going fast enough, and it is not going deep enough. You know, I get frustrated when I'm showed, you know, factories where the wires are and all this car business. This is not only an anarchic state, as Kofi has said, this is also a vampire state in which those who have been put into positions of authority, as Sami has described, suck the blood out of the state, spits the remaining out, and then pontificate to the state when it wants to do something. And I get pretty upset when the word missing is used. Missing is when your wallet drops and you don't know. Stolen is when somebody deliberately picks it from your pocket. And I think the starting point for this conversation is the question, how? How they left the port. Then the second, what is it good for that some people connived to take it out of the port? And I want to challenge those who sit on that committee that they need to look at two things. Number one, not all the 1328 stolen containers had these electric wires. I suspect some contained personal things that they didn't want to pay for.
Or some contain meters. We are told that sometimes the meters are procured when we don't need them. So you are there and you are told to change your meter. You are forced to change your meter when you don't need it. The state is just spending so that a businessman will be made rich. Did I lose Prof?
Well, I'm here.
Yes. I'm here. Yes, but the committee, the issue is now in the hands of the security, as in the National Intelligence Bureau.
Yes, but Samson, you see, we need other people other than those guys. Why? Were they not at the port when these huge things were stolen? Did they write a report? Did they track the containers? So my second point about what we should be looking at, what other things can be in those containers that the state of Ghana must not see? That other people who have a certain interest in undermining the sanctity of the state might have brought in those containers.
Okay.
Now, institutions at the port who failed to deliver on their mandate must not be the same institutions investigating this case. The minister and Sami, please tell the minister and His Excellency the President, we need to widen the membership.
They are both listen. The president listens and watches this show.
Otherwise,
when they don't get to watch it in the morning, they watch it in the night. I mean, all presidents.
Okay, well, I can assure you, some presidents certainly watched and didn't let me. So please, Sami, let this go there. institutions at the port that failed to protect the national interest cannot investigate this case. Number 3, have we seized any laptops, mobile phones to start a process of network analysis? You see, because those involved in this are not only in Ghana. And when you tell me you've arrested 14 Chinese and only 3 Ghanaians or so, it points out that we are totally in the wrong direction. Levels of collusion when these monies that Sami is mentioning are involved, people will say the state of Ghana. So yes, we are tickling ourselves, which is very nice, but we are not scratching deep and wide enough. Let's not use this purely for publicity. It may come to bite us in a way that we don't expect. There is more to this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Let's have Vicky Bright's comments on this as well. And Rev.Ntim Ford, you're speaking in the course of the week over this matter, actually he's the one I heard the first time from an idea of the worth of what is said to be missing, and he put $700 million to it.
Yes, Samson, this is organized crime. It's organized crime that is very deep rooted, and it's rotten to the core. It starts from ECG and ends up at the ports. So it's something that is extremely serious. Okay? Let's look at ECG as an institution, because that is really the crux of the problem. Without all the lapses and all the collusion and things going on there, we would not be where we are now, which is in a very sorry and sad state, okay, to all of our detriment. Look at the kinds of monies that are being mentioned. We need that money. There's so much that we have to do as a nation. And the president has inherited practically nothing, you know, and debt upon debt upon debt. And why is that the case? Because a few selfish people consistently keep deciding that they can just help themselves to garner money. And enough is enough. How can someone be sitting? First of all, they don't believe they are subjected to the procurement laws. Sami addressed that issue. I mean, I find that argument extremely problematic. And it is sad that an attorney general in this country actually came up with an opinion to that effect. How can you say you're not subjected to the procurement law? You are a public institution. You only have one shareholder. That shareholder is government. That shareholder is government. You are, you know, public funds. The act is very clear. It's very clear. It's public funds, whether it's internally generated, whether it's a grant, whether it's a loan, etc., etc. It's all public funds. And also, if you look at the institutions which have been exempted, like the banks, I mean, we can all see why. They are operating purely in a competitive environment with other banks. Some of them are even foreign with parents with very deep pockets. So they have to be freed up to go and pursue the business of banking. But you are a near monopoly, if not a monopoly. All of us here in this building, we all buy our electricity from ECG. So we don't have a choice. We have to go there. So, I mean, I find that argument fallacious, is problematic, and it shouldn't even be entertained at all. And also, one more thing I'll say to that is that ECG itself knows that it is subjected to these rules. If not, why would you consistently, over the years, keep going to an institution called the Public Procurement Authority of Ghana to seek exemptions if you don't believe you are subjected to the rules? It doesn't make sense. If you believe you're exempt, why go there? What are you going there to do? And then you continue, they say no, and you just ignore it. I mean, you're a state-owned enterprise. How do you ignore the laws that you're supposed to be setting an example? How do you ignore the laws of the state? So, and then the CEO, I understand, has a personal limit of $1 million. That's over 15 million Ghana cedis. Over 15 million. So he can sit in his office and decide to. So I want to know who arrogated that authority to him. Was the board involved? And in all of this, I haven't heard anyone mention the board. Look, under the Companies Act, the obligations, the duties, the responsibilities of directors are very clear. They owe a fiduciary duty to the company and by extension to all of us as Ghanaians, since it's a public entity. So where are the directors in all of this? How do you go and approve a company to go and do clearance, which doesn't even have a license? I mean, the lapses are so many. It's you know, so yes. I mean, and when you hear these values, it's just chilling. You know, it's mind-blowing. So I'm very happy with what the minister is doing. I commend him for it. And I think he has to drill down and find these things out. Everything in the port is electronic, so it can be traced.
Yeah. Right.
It's very clear, and I don't think it takes
actually,
long.
the former MD, Samuel Dubik, says the point you just made. He says, even if it is lost at sea, you will be notified because it has a unique number that can be tracked anywhere. So did they track the numbers and they didn't find them, or they are just resorting to the fiscal count? Containers that are in the custody of customs and Ghana Port and harbors, what does that have to do with ECG? Did the containers get missing in the custody of ECG? The investigative team never contacted me. Meanwhile, I have not gone anywhere, and I won't go anywhere. So what was the rationale behind that? If they wanted to do a thorough investigation, they should have called me.
I don't even know where to begin with this one, because what he's saying, yes, it got, if you look, it's a very simplistic argument. Let me start off on that basis. Very simplistic argument. If he doesn't see the correlation between what is happening in ECG and says it has nothing to do with them, then I have very big problems with that. Okay. And I think every well-meaning Ghanaian who loves their country will have a problem with it. You are the MD of ECG. You are the ultimate, you know, other than the board under which you operate, you are responsible for everything that happens. He himself should be able to answer some of these questions. He should be able to answer some. And then you say it's pressure from above. And I don't understand why we feel that if you're occupying a public seat and someone is exerting pressure on you, okay? Someone is exerting pressure on you to do something which you believe goes against the company's fiduciary interest or your duties as CEO or MD, you feel glued to that. Nobody is gluing you to the seat. If you feel strongly about it, do what other people do in other countries. Resign. Okay. As long as you stay there, it is no argument.
In Ghana, we don't know how to resign.
Back. This is the problem. So don't complain.
All right.
Don't complain. You accept the responsibility and you get punished for it if you are found to be culpable.
Okay.
You cannot sit there, do the wrong thing, and then say you're being forced to do the wrong thing, and then expect Ghanaians to say, "Oh, pressure, no, you know, no shit," or whatever.
Beyond the criminal investigations, the procurement expert Kobna Atabedu has been saying there ought to be a forensic audit. Yeah. He was on our platform, and he pointed to numerous, you know, governance issues and procurement infractions under the PMF and the PPA and the Companies Act as well. Would you say we should do more than just criminal investigations?
I think we need to, I think we definitely have to do the forensics. And I would want a wide scope.
Okay.
Right from the personnel at ECG who were involved in this, management and anybody else, the board itself, who authorized these things, who ordered them, and who authorized that order. And then you go to the financials and the regular things. And also one thing we probably don't, we need to let the public know more of is the Whistleblowers Act.
Correct.
You know, because people don't do the linkage, you know, so we need to probably do some kind of exercise to educate Ghanaians on how that works so that they will feel emboldened to blow the cover on some of these things for us to see. So yes, yes, criminal investigations definitely, and the consequences have to be seen through. I mean, we have, I think the act will probably need to also be changed. 5 years imprisonment fine, but there's also the 2,500 penalty units. I don't know whether one penalty unit is still 12 cedis.
It's still 12
If
Ghana
it is,
cedis.
then it's about 30,000 cedis, if
That's
my
right.
math is correct.
That's right.
And so that is not a big enough deterrent. So that financial penalty has to be, I mean, look at the kinds of monies we're talking about versus 30,000 cedis. So we need to look at some of these things. Look at the procurement, look at the procurement regime as a whole, and then see where we have weaknesses, strengthen those weaknesses, look at institutional and regulatory gaps, and see how we can close some of these gaps.
All right.
Yeah, something on this message
Thank
from
you.
because
Thank you.
there's something that's coming to my mind. You recall that when the MPP was in office, Parliament was always inundated with application for tax exemptions for multinationals and private companies and all that. Now, so it beats my imagination why the government...
I'm conflicted because I led a suit to stop some of those tax waivers.
But the question is, if they were minded to seek and actually grant tax exemptions for multinationals, private entities, even assuming that it was true that ECG didn't have money to clear these containers, why didn't they give them exemption to clear them? Because this is a wholly owned public entity.
Exactly.
They kept on importing these things. Forget about the fact that we didn't need them. Forget about the fact that they didn't follow procurement law. But at the end of the day, the taxpayer was going to pay for it.
Absolutely.
And we needed these cables very badly. So why won't you give them
it was being
exemption
done for 1D, 1F companies.
Not
That
just them.
was a regime,
And other
but an
companies,
incentive for those companies.
Yeah, so what about ECG?
Okay.
If indeed they didn't have them.
Okay.
1 minute. And so Senior, before you come in, just one sentence. You see, Dubik Mahama should stop talking. He should stop talking. The question is, why did we have a situation where 2,500 containers belonging to the ECG were held up at the port in the first place? It is because of his recklessness in awarding contracts for things that ECG didn't need.
You are
that
not
is very
saying
clear.
the same about the board chair who spoke about the
all
fact
of
that
them.
these things, the last board chair,
It
Afenyo-Markin.
applies to all of them, including Herbert Krampa, including Napo, including all the ministers who sat down for this to happen. This should not happen.
So,
Yes, quickly, what do you want to say? Quickly.
I beg. We keep talking about forensic audits. We are not there yet. Please, somebody should ask the GPHA chief executive to give information about those containers that arrived at the port and who took them out. A forklift lifted those things, put it on a low loader, and somebody passed the papers and signed them to put them out of the port. The head of GPHA should simply give that. It is not forensic.
All right, thank you.
It is simple.
Thank you very much. For those of you commenting about my shirt, it is by the kind courtesy of Konatic Clothing. You can call 0244 676732, 0244 676732, Konatic Clothing. And they are still... MPP colors. I love them. I love them. I love them. I love them. Like I always say, the parties are not criminal organizations, but they have individuals in there who are bad. We deal with those individuals. Right. Now, and Vicky spoke about the Whistleblowers Act, and I'm getting messages about how we need to educate people a lot about the Whistleblowers Act. Since 2006, we passed it, but we say very little about it. So let there be a lot of education, that there is even protection for you, security protection, if you blow the whistle. And you are likely to even get 10% of what government is able to recover if you blow the whistle, except there's a fund that's supposed to be set up. It still has not been set up. Okay. I've got some of your messages. I'll read them quickly, then we take a break. We'll return to see if the gold board is what we need to do what it says it will do. Companies belonging to shareholders and not management. The owner of ECG is Government of Ghana. Procurement is pool demand of operations and stocks both in stores and on order. Okay, thank you. I hope that message is understood. Then Frank Anderson Jr. says that this is not a committee matter. This is criminal. It is an organized crime, like Vicky said, and must be treated as such. We know when these containers arrived in Ghana, arrest them and bring all investigative body to swiftly sniff out the criminals. We talk too much in this country. We need to start doing. This is what happens in advanced democracies that we so admire. The system must work outside political structures. Thanks for that message. Yakubu Ibn Chamba says the ECG, as things stand now, is a burden on the coffers of the state. How can we allow such an institution to cause more harm to the state? On the matter of the missing containers, I think the ECG is insulting the intelligence of Ghanaians by saying that 1,357 containers have gone missing. The criminals behind this embarrassment must be thrown the books. Somebody ought to account for the containers. All cost. At all costs, why do we hurt Ghana so much with impunity? Thank you, Yakubu Ibn Chambers. Thank you. I've got many more of your messages. Let me take a break. When I return, I'll read a couple of them before we continue with the matter of the gold board.